Thanks for the super thanks, buddy. Really appreciate it. If you like Shut Up Dragon, consider joining the membership or dropping a super thanks to support more. She turns to Leon with an angry face, thinking that a prisoner dares to touch his master. Roswicey then decides to fight back, thinking that if he's going to touch her, then she'll touch him too. Suddenly, Leon feels a strange current pass through his body, making him twitch. Roswicey moves closer to him, her shoulder pressing against his. A wave of confusion washes over him as he wonders what's happening and why Roswicey keeps touching him. As he continues holding her hand, he suddenly notices how soft her skin is. The area where their bodies make contact begins to tingle, the sensation light and itchy, leaving him flustered and unable to relax. As they lie close to each other, their bodies gently touching, Leon begins to feel strange. A wild, growing hunger stirs in his heart, something he can no longer ignore. Both he and Roswicey start to breathe heavier, their chests rising and falling as the heat between them builds. At the same time, a shared thought crosses their minds: they both really want to take things further. Their eyes meet. Neither speaks, but both silently think the same thing: they want to do something more. Their faces move closer. A deep blush spreads across both of their cheeks. Leon, unable to hold back his urge any longer, throws the blanket aside. He climbs on top of Roswicey, locking eyes with her. As the space between them vanishes, their breath grows heavier, and their minds blur, overtaken by desire. Leon moves closer to her lips, thinking to himself that this is only for tonight. Leon climbs on top of Roswicey, pinning her gently against the bed as he holds her hands down. Roswicey looks up at him, her face flushed red, and a hidden desire to be close to him begins to rise within her. In a soft, sweet, and slightly seductive tone, she quietly calls his name. Leon, overtaken by the moment, finds his mind clouded with lust. His breath grows heavier, his face deeply blushed, and his eyes lock with hers, completely lost in the intensity. As they continue staring into each other's eyes, the tension deepens, and both of them grow more aroused. Their breaths grow heavier, and the heat between them continues to build. Leon slowly leans in, his lips inching closer to Roswicey's, ready to kiss her. It's obvious what's about to happen next. But something unexpected occurs: the dragon mark doesn't react at all. The dragon mark, a form of ancient magic designed to amplify intimacy when true desire and emotion are present, remains completely still. And the reason is clear: when two people hold the purest appreciation and desire for each other, the dragon mark stays silent, needing no extra spark to fan the flame. Just as Leon is about to kiss Roswicey's lips, a spider suddenly appears in front of them, completely ruining the moment of intimacy. The atmosphere shatters instantly. Roswicey, horrified, lets out a loud scream at the sight. Leon quickly reacts, urging her to stay calm. He catches the spider and pleads with her not to release her dragon flame in panic. Meanwhile, under the moonlight, Aisha leisurely sips wine while listening from afar. A faint, knowing smile forms on her lips as she murmurs to herself that perhaps it's finally time for them to discover the little surprise she had prepared. Roswicey, still trembling with fear, clings to Leon. He wraps his arms around her tightly, gently patting her head to soothe her. In a soft, comforting voice, he assures her that everything is fine now. Leon calmly explains that he's already checked the room thoroughly, both inside and out, and there are no other traps or mechanisms left behind. As Leon and Roswicey hold each other in their sleep, their faces remain flushed red. The rivalry between them fades away in that quiet moment, replaced by a sincere, unspoken love. They embrace not as opponents, but as two hearts drawn together by pure affection. Roswicey listens to Leon's heartbeat, steady but quick, and glances up at him. She softly remarks that his heart is beating so fast. Leon, unable to admit that his racing heart is driven by overwhelming love for her in that moment, offers a simple excuse instead. He claims he's just afraid of spiders too. Clinging to his chest, Roswicey murmurs that she won't do this kind of thing with him again. As Leon holds her tightly in his arms, she quietly adds that this moment should never be mentioned again after tonight. Leon nods and gently agrees, assuring her that he understands. The next morning, the sun rises brightly, casting warm light across the room. As the sunlight falls upon Roswicey's eyes, she blinks and suddenly opens them in surprise. Sitting up quickly in bed, she wonders when exactly she drifted off to sleep. Glancing to her side, she notices that Leon is no longer there and thinks to herself that he must have woken up early. Getting down from the bed, she sighs inwardly, thinking that perhaps it's for the best. With a light blush on her cheeks, Roswicey begins to undress. Thoughts of the previous night race through her mind, and she admits silently that she's unsure how to face him now. As she slips into fresh clothes, a quiet realization settles in: This is the first time she's broken her own rules. Hooking her dress together, she can't stop thinking about Leon. Her face flushes again as she reflects on how she exposed her vulnerability in front of a human, and even fell asleep in his arms. As Rosweisy opens the door, her expression turns stern. Internally, she scolds herself, thinking how utterly embarrassing it all is, and firmly decides that she must never tell anyone what happened. The moment she steps outside, a voice calls out, asking if she's awake. Hearing it, Rosweisy turns to the side to see who it is. Standing just outside the door, Aisha waits with a light, knowing smile on her face. She looks at Rosweisy and gently teases, asking how the night was it exciting? Rosweisy, now both embarrassed and frustrated, glares at her sister. With sarcastic annoyance, she replies that yes, it was very exciting, and tells her not to do something like this again. Aisha, in response, only smiles more, clearly amused by Rosweisy's cute, angry expression. Stepping closer, Aisha leans in and whispers softly, asking whether Rosweisy used the toys she had prepared for her. Rosweisy's face instantly turns red with embarrassment, and she hurriedly denies it, flustered and unable to meet her sister's gaze. Aisha lets out a sigh and remarks that it's a pity. She then casually adds that when Rosweisy leaves later, she'll pack some toys for her, so she can continue practicing with them when she returns home. Without pausing, Aisha follows up with another cheeky question, wondering aloud when Rosweisy plans to give birth to another child. She says she's still waiting for a successor to inherit her red dragon castle. Rosweisy's face flushes bright red with embarrassment. Quickly grabbing Aisha's arm, she drags her away while trying to change the subject. Flustered, she tells her sister there's no need to worry about that and suggests they go have breakfast instead. At the Red Dragon Castle's dining hall, Leon, Moon, and Nova are already gathered. Moon sits comfortably on Leon's lap, and he gently plays with her cheeks, enjoying a quiet moment of father-daughter bonding. Suddenly, Moon notices Rosweisy and Aisha approaching. With cheerful excitement, she calls out that Mommy and Auntie have arrived. Rosweisy, hearing her daughter's voice, turns to look in their direction. Moon jumps off Leon's lap with enthusiasm, announcing through her actions that it's time to eat. Everyone gathers at the dining table, but the room is filled with an awkward silence. No one speaks, only the soft clinking of utensils and the occasional shuffle of plates breaks the stillness, as everyone focuses on their meal. On the other side of the table, a quiet tension lingers between Leon and Rosweisy. The air around them is thick with awkwardness from the events of the previous night. Neither dares to make eye contact, both eat slowly, silently pretending to be fully absorbed in the food. Leon, chewing methodically, steals a glance toward Rosweisy. A wave of embarrassment washes over him. The memory of last night replays in his mind, how close he came to kissing her, how the moment overtook him, and how, in the end, they fell asleep in each other's arms. The intensity of it all makes him avert his gaze again, inwardly cringing at the memory and thinking just how utterly embarrassing it is now. As Leon drifts deeper into his thoughts, two miniature versions of himself appear, one angelic, one devilish, hovering above his head. The angel frowns sternly, declaring that Leon is surrendering himself into the arms of an enemy, calling it nothing short of treason. In contrast, the devilish side smirks and shrugs, reasoning that they are husband and wife, and after all, they've already crossed a line, so what's the big deal? Their conflicting opinions clash, and without warning, the angel and devil lunge at each other, bickering and throwing tiny punches mid-air, engaging in a chaotic skirmish. Meanwhile, Leon sits completely unaffected, continuing to eat his breakfast with a blank expression as the imaginary war rages above him. As he takes another bite, he suddenly notices something: the bread tastes unusually bland. Deciding to fix that, he reaches out toward a nearby jar, thinking it would be nice to add some peanut butter. But just as his hand nears the jar, another hand moves toward it at the same time. That is Rosweisy's hand. Their fingers brush against each other unintentionally. Both freeze. Their hands touch softly, and for a split second, time seems to stop. Their eyes meet, wide and surprised, staring silently into each other's gaze. Neither says a word. The moment hangs in the air, charged with awkwardness and something deeper they can't quite name. It was time for the special edition chapter, The Secret of the Waterbed. Aisha began revealing the secrets behind it. She explained that the large waterbed had been specially customized for Leon and his wife, designed to quickly warm up their hearts and bring them closer. According to her, there were trigger buttons placed on both sides of the bed. If someone accidentally touched one, a toy spider, the very same one that little Ross was terrified of, would drop down. With a playful wink, Aisha added that the only way to avoid setting off the mechanism was for the couple to hug each other in the middle of the bed. The implication of her words left Roswesi flustered, and she yelled out in embarrassment, declaring that such a setup was completely unnecessary. As their hands touched while reaching for the peanut butter jar, they both looked into each other's eyes in surprise. Without saying a word, they continued staring at one another. Embarrassed, they quickly withdrew their hands from the jar. Their faces turned red from the awkwardness. Leon, trying to ease the tension, told Roswesi to take it first. Roswesi agreed to him. Aisha noticed their blushing faces and, in a teasing tone, asked whether it was hot in the dining hall. Roswesi, feeling flustered, waved her hand at her face and agreed that it was quite hot. Leon, loosening his collar, supported the statement. Aisha then jokingly suggested whether they wanted to go back to their room and take a shower. Caught off guard and embarrassed, Leon and Roswesi both quickly replied at the same time that there was no need. Aisha looked at them with a chuckling smile, finding amusement in their reactions, which never failed to entertain her no matter how many times she teased them. Shifting to a more serious tone, she brought up a recent issue, recalling that she had heard about some friction involving Roswesi and a duke from the Red Flame Dragon clan a few days ago. Roswesi acknowledged the incident, recalling how the duke's son had led a group to bully Noah, only for them to end up getting beaten instead. When the duke himself came to pick a fight, Leon had stepped in and defeated him. Leon, recalling the event, laughed casually, says that how weak that dragon was, having gone down with just one punch. After listening to all this, Aisha with a smile pats Noah's head and proudly says that Noah is so amazing. Turning to Roswesi, Aisha brought up a recent development. She explained that after the defeated duke had returned, he went straight to their leader, Constantine, and stirred up a big commotion about the incident. Hearing this, Roswesi grew visibly angry, finding the duke's actions despicable. Leon, upon hearing the name Constantine from Aisha, began to recall details from the Dragon clan's history. He remembered Constantine being described as a heroic figure who had once played a crucial role in helping the Dragon clan expand its territory. Aisha then warned them that Constantine had been quite active lately in his territorial expansions and might use this situation as a pretext to cause trouble. She advised them to stay alert and be cautious. Roswesi, however, appeared unconcerned at first, casually remarking that if Constantine truly intended to attack her Silver Dragon castle just for the sake of a useless duke, then she would not hesitate to retaliate. Roswesi's demeanor shifted to a more serious and determined look and says that she was ready to give the Red Flame Dragon clan a harsh lesson if needed. At the Red Dragon Castle city gate, Roswesi and Aisha embraced each other warmly. Aisha smiled as she saw them off, wishing her sister a safe journey back. Roswesi acknowledged her with a gentle nod, promising that they would come to visit again sometime soon. Before parting, Aisha handed Roswesi a small gift, her eyes gleaming with a playful wink. She asked her to open it only once she returned home. Roswesi accepted the gift with a soft smile, expressing her gratitude. Aisha then turned to Noah and Moon, embracing both of them. She encouraged them to eat more meat, grow stronger, and come play with her again in the future. Moon, ever energetic, declared her enthusiasm to eat more, while Noah quietly agreed to his aunt's words. As a final gesture, Aisha gently kissed Noah on the cheek before bidding them farewell. Aisha then turns to Leon and offers him a smile, saying it at last. She extends her hand for a handshake and reminds him not to forget what he promised her. Leon nods, assuring her that he will keep his word. Roswesi, standing beside them, watches with a confused and questioning expression, clearly not understanding what the two are talking about. As the time to depart arrives, Roswesi transforms into her majestic dragon form, spreading her beautiful wings wide. With her family aboard, she soars into the sky. Moon cheerfully waves and shouts a goodbye to her aunt, while Aisha waves back, wishing them a good trip. Once they've disappeared into the distance, Aisha turns around and re-enters her Red Dragon castle. While making her way to her room, she chuckles softly, thinking about how amusing young dragons can be. Opening the door with a smile, she muses to herself, wondering when they will have another baby. As Aisha opening the door, a spider that had been placed right above it. As she fully opens the door, suddenly the spider on top of the door drops down in front of her eyes. Her face instantly pales, startled by the unexpected creature. For a moment, fear flickers across her expression. Then, regaining composure, she picks up the spider in her hand with a serious look, muttering to herself that the boy is truly eager to protect his wife. Far away, as Leon rides home, he suddenly sneezes because of Aisha talking about him. He thinks inwardly, suspecting that Aisha must have discovered the surprise he left behind. Meanwhile, Moon and Noah both doze off peacefully on his lap. With a serious expression, Leon reflects on the time their family spent at the Red Dragon Castle, the warmth they shared, and the deep bond that grew between them. He thinks to himself that Rosweiss and her sister are completely unlike the Dragon Kings he has encountered before. Leon reflects on the laughter and teasing shared during their stay, realizing that once you truly get along with them, the dragons of the Red Dragon Castle reveal themselves to be warm, peaceful, and deeply family-oriented. Their affection isn't shown through grand gestures, but in the small, everyday moments filled with love and closeness. As those thoughts settled in his mind, he quietly reflected on how she had entrusted her most cherished sister to him, a gesture that carried immense trust. Rosweiss, shifting her gaze back to Leon, brought up the moment he had just left, questioning what promise he had made to her sister. In response, Leon laughs and playfully dodges the question by saying he won't tell her. His teasing nature sparked frustration in Rosweiss, who grew angry at his mischievous behavior. By nightfall, the family arrived at the Silver Dragon Castle. After settling in, they gently placed Moon and Nova into their bedroom. The two children lay side by side, sleeping peacefully and adorably, their quiet breaths filling the room with warmth. As Rosweiss stepped out of the room and softly closed the door behind her, Leon waited just outside the door. He looked at her with a particular glint in his eyes and called out to her, catching her attention. Rosweiss turned toward him with a questioning expression, curious about why he had called her. Leon, wearing a teasing and slightly bullying expression, hinted at a mischievous request. He wanted her to give a live performance of what had been in the video from yesterday. Now, he intended to use that dark history to his advantage. His revenge plan for the night was simple but devious: mentally torment Rosweiss with playful bullying so thoroughly that she wouldn't be able to sleep peacefully. Leon, recalling what he had seen in the crystal ball, began imitating Rosweiss with exaggerated movements and a mischievous grin. He even broke into a playful tune, mimicking her childhood voice singing about loving to take baths, rubbing his tail, and blowing bubbles. His teasing portrayal, though ridiculous, hit its mark. Rosweiss, thoroughly humiliated by the imitation of her younger self, grew visibly angry. Her face flushed, not from embarrassment alone, but from the frustration of being mocked so directly. It was now time for the special edition chapter, The Queen's Dark History. At the Red Dragon Castle, as everyone together, Aisha announced with excitement that it was time to watch more of little Ross's old videos. Moon, filled with enthusiasm and curiosity, eagerly agreed to see what was next. Soon, the recording stored in the crystal ball began to play. In the scene, a much younger Aisha appeared, placing a finger over her lips to signal for silence. She leaned in and whispered softly, urging her to follow quietly. Then, careful not to make a sound, she tiptoed toward a nearby door, making sure not to make a single sound as she led the way. As the door creaked open, a figure appeared inside the room, softly singing a playful tune. It was little Rosweiss, enjoying her bath while cheerfully and innocently singing to herself. Her voice echoed with childlike delight as she hummed, "I love taking a bath, it makes me feel good, la la la. Rub the tail and blow bubbles, la la la." The scene was both adorable and utterly embarrassing. Upon witnessing this side of her through the crystal ball, Leon couldn't contain his laughter. He burst out with amusement, playfully remarking how her singing voice was as lovely as a lark's. The unexpected humiliation left Rosweiss furious. Though anger welled up inside her, she held herself back in front of everyone, trying her best to remain silent and composed. Unable to contain it any longer. With determination in her eyes, she rolled up her sleeves and stormed toward the crystal ball, ready to destroy it on the spot. Before she could act, Aisha quickly rushed in from behind and held her back, stopping her from carrying out the impulsive act. Rosweiss, burning with anger, demanded to be let go, insisting that she had to destroy the crystal ball. But Aisha firmly refused, explaining that the recording was too precious to lose. She wanted to preserve it as a family heirloom. What followed was a chaotic scene of tugging, arguing, and multiple attempts by Rosweiss to seize the crystal ball, each one blocked by Aisha's relentless defense. In the end, though the crystal ball managed to survive the assault, the entire box housing it was left battered and wrapped in layers of bandages, evidence of the struggle it had just endured.